Good morning, everyone. My name is Dan Progera with the JRP Group, and I welcome you to this segment of Real Estate Contracts and Disclosures. Here at the JRP Group, we're putting together a short series of videos that cover the disclosures and the contracts that we use in our everyday business. The reason we do this is to give you just a rough overview as to some of the questions and answers that you might be facing when you're filling out your contracts. We definitely encourage you to meet with your legal department and or your sales manager or your broker to ensure you're always filling out the contracts and disclosures correctly. So today we're going to be talking about one of the disclosures that's very, very important, and it's the TDS, which is also referred to here as the Real Estate Transfer Disclosure Statement. A transfer disclosure statement is required by California law in Section 1102 of the California Civil Code. This law requires that every residential seller complete a TDS for the buyer. This document is one of the many of the seller disclosures that buyers receive during their contract contingency period. The purpose of the TDS is to let a buyer know of major defects in a property as required by California law. So there will be some people that will actually say there are some exempt times when a TDS is not required, and that's where we certainly encourage you to reach out to your legal department and find out what those cases are. So we definitely have a lot of one-on-one with our trainings with our agents and also our breakout sessions, and we have them go over the entire contracts and disclosures. We have them go line by line, and we sit with them and we encourage them to find out exactly why we're filling this out and what each item means, what each area means, especially when it comes to the TDS as it's mentioned in both the real estate purchase contract as also with the listing agreement itself. So again, what we've got here is the TDS is, again, we have just like the SPQ, which is a seller property questionnaire, is we have the seller and the house is now going to be talking to the buyer, the buyer's agents, and they're going to be talking about what are material facts that could be wrong with the house, is wrong with the house, and what does the seller know about any conditions whatsoever as they move forward. The transfer disclosure statement is one of the many documents that if you ever get into a legal action, this document itself, if the buyer is going to disclose, going to sue for non-disclosure of some particular item, this is going to be a document they're going to look at. So let's go ahead and view this. It talks about this disclosure statement concerns the real property. And again, we've got the addresses. It's going to be the city. We have the address, the county. We have the state of California. We're making sure our zip code is correct. And then also we're going to be putting our address in. And then we actually get into what some of the actual the forms mean, coordination with other disclosure forms. This real estate disclosure is made pursuant to Section 1102 of the Civil Code. So if you have any inspection reports completed pursuant to the contract, sale, or receipt for deposit, you'll be go ahead and you'll be clicking that button. But again, this is going to be filled out by the seller. Also, additional inspections reports or disclosures. Again, this is going to be edited by the seller, and they would actually put a check mark here, and then they would disclose if there's any additional reports or if there's been any inspections pursuant to the contract. And now we get into a series of yes or no questions. So here you'll be sitting down and you can assist the seller only in the aspect of asking the questions, or if they have any particular questions for you, is again, we do not provide legal advice, but we can certainly ask them, you know, do you have a range, oven, dishwasher, disposal, and so on. So as the seller is filling out this document, they'll be going, and each item that is applicable here is they would put a check mark and they would put an X next to it. So they would go through, again, your entire form and making sure that all of this is filled out to the best of their ability. You can certainly help them, for example, if it says an exhaust fan, what do you mean by that? You can ask them the question, well, do you have an exhaust fan in the bathroom? Do you have an exhaust fan in the kitchen itself? Not so much providing the answer for them, but you can put it into a question form. And then also, once they've completed the first section of the yes or no questions regarding the house, then the next portion is are to the best of your knowledge, is there anything in non-operating condition? Again, the seller would mark either yes, or they would mark no, and they would fill that out, and then they're going to initial page 1. We start with page 2, and it's asking again, is the seller aware of any significant defects, malfunctions of any of the following? Now it's talking about the walls, ceilings, and etc. They're going to fill this out, and if there are any that they mark yes, then again, we have a section for notes under describe. And if it says, if any of the above is checked, explain, and again here, we have a lot of room to be able to write any explanations. This next section is a series of yes or no questions that talks about substances, features that are shared in common, and so on. So again, what we recommend, when we do our training, we actually will go over each one of these items with our agents, and we'll talk about what each one of these items stand for and why we're actually marking it yes or no. So again, this is going to be filled out in its entirety by the seller. If there are any questions that are marked yes, again, we have an area here as far as explaining, and then we'll put what the explanation is, and it's going to be signed by the seller. At this point, we do get into where the agent's inspection disclosure comes in, and this will be an additional disclosure called an AVID, which is the agent visual inspection disclosure. And this talks about the undersigned, based on the above inquiry of the sellers as to the condition of the property and based on a reasonably competent and diligent visual inspection of the accessible areas of the property in conjunction with the inquiry, states the following. So usually what happens is, as an agent, we're going to check the box which says see attached agent visual inspection. Again, that's the AVID form, and this will be a form that we're going to be discussing in a future segment of contracts and disclosures. Here you'd go ahead and you're going to possibly put C AVID, and then it's going to go, this is the brokerage, it should auto-populate, you're going to sign it. And then we further go into the other agent as well, the cooperating broker. They will be filling this out as well. And then here we have acknowledgement of the copy of the statement. So here we actually have an area where, again, the seller is going to be signing in its second place, but we also have a buyer's signature line. We have a signature line for both agents, and then that completes the TDS. We definitely recommend that you spend some time and discuss this, with your sales manager, your broker, real estate attorney. They also have some really great classes at the multiple listing service, as this disclosure is truly a very, very important one, as it's used in court and it's certainly conveying to the potential buyer any defects or malfunctions with the house itself. So we appreciate you spending some time with us on real estate contracts and disclosures, and good luck with your real estate career.